We're back with Tristan talking about Calgary.
Huge spike earlier on this year. It does look like things are coming around and starting to soften heading into winter. This is one graph that I haven't shown you yet, to you or your listeners. It does break down into the districts, so a little more detailed here. It starts city center, northeast, north, northwest, and so on. What 400,000 can buy you in Calgary? So you're really just working on taking out flooring, repainting, taking down some walls, doing some demo. It's not a huge project. You're likely going to be spending 80 to 100 grand on something like this. This property turned around. I'll show you a comparable that just sold in the same area, but you're likely looking at a 625 to 650 with about 80 grand to 100 grand worth of work.
What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and we're back with Tristan talking about Calgary. Hey, Tristan, how's it going?
Good, Matt. How you doing?
Doing well. And so looking forward to hearing what's going on in your corner of the world these days, catching up on what's going on in the Calgary market. Sounds like inventory is still relatively hard to come by these days.
Yeah, inventory is low, but sales are getting lower too. So it seems like the crest that we experienced is starting to come back around.
All right. And then I know later on in the presentation, you also got some of your own projects you're going to be sharing with us.
Yeah, I've got some opportunities here for people who are looking to take on their own BRRRR project. I think there's some really cool, interesting options here in Calgary.
All right, awesome. Well, let's jump into it and find out what's going on in Calgary.
Things that we experienced a huge spike earlier on this year. It does look like things are coming around and starting to soften heading into winter. Now, that is typical of the real estate markets that we've experienced in decades past, but we're not sure if things will return to pre-pandemic normals. That is just an unknown that no one can really foresee. But what we know though is the stats from the last couple months, things are starting to slow down as far as inventory in the blue and sales in the green the past couple months. Benchmark price. Now, typically that does trend in the same direction as the sales, but we'll see if that actually returns to that pre-pandemic level of 420s that we saw last year, or if it's going to stay around the 460s into wintertime here.
Mm-hmm.
But I do anticipate the next 4 months heading into February that we will experience a bit of a softer pocket that opens up some opportunities for first-time home buyers, anyone looking to get into the home market and get out of the rental market.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially it's kind of refreshing to see this because I know certainly here in pockets of Ontario, there's still a pretty hot market. So I know for Canadian real estate investors, it's sometimes nice to see the market catching its breath, create some interesting opportunities.
Absolutely. A little bit of correction. And we are seeing a bit increase as well as migration. So, for other provinces coming to Alberta, coming to Calgary, and we are seeing actually our luxury end of the market seeing some increase in traffic as well. That's actually up 250% from this time last year as far as transactions in the 1 million plus range. So a lot of that is due to migration from those bigger centers that are looking for their dollar to go further, right? And that's why I'm still optimistic about Calgary in the long term. As soon as we start seeing some market recovery as far as the economy, we will see some long-term growth. I do think it's an undervalued city that eventually will bode well for people looking for a great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is one graph that I haven't shown you yet, to you or your listeners. It does break down into the districts, so a little more detailed here. It starts city center, northeast, north, northwest, and so on. Of course, each one is going to have different numbers, but they are relatively similar when it comes to the sectors. So in the detached sector in Calgary, sales totaled 1,300 last month. New listings 1,572. So an absorption rate of 82%, which is still really good. A really good indicator as to what kind of market it is how many months of supply that we have. And right now in Calgary, we're sitting at 2.1, which is firmly in a seller's market still. Anything under 3 is a seller's from a rule of thumb. Anything between 3 and 4 is a balanced, and anything over 4 would be a buyer's market, typically. And our benchmark price sitting at 538,700. That's up 10.5% from this time last year, and it's down just slightly from last month at down 0.2%. So not really significant on that front. And that'll be interesting to see if that number continues to stay pretty level or decrease into wintertime here.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got our apartments, which of course we talked about previously on the show here. Apartments, especially in the city center, are struggling. We have a lot of inventory, like a lot of new listings here, 295 with only 125 sales. So an absorption of only 42%. Inventory is almost 1,000, which makes up more than double, or more than half of the actual overall inventory of all of Calgary. And the months on market is firmly in a buyer's market at 7.7. That's a number that we haven't seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then year over year, hasn't changed much for benchmark price. Month over month, pretty insignificant as well. But the one thing to keep in mind here is it's important not to paint the whole city with the same brush, and that's why I brought up this graph specifically for the apartments. If you look at city center, you can think that, wow, it's a really dire situation for condos. But if you look at some of the suburbs in the southeast and some of those newer communities, you have 2.8 months of inventory, which is actually a seller's market. So it's quite a contrast. And you actually have an absorption rate at more than 100%. So there's more sales than there are new listings, which is quite interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess just any thoughts or perspectives for investors that maybe were looking to get into condos in regards to, what these numbers are kind of showcasing. So do you expect to see this trend continue with more months of inventory building up?
For the short term, yes. I think long term, eventually the city center will start to show some signs of growth when, again, the work from home orders go away, if they ever go away. But if that's not the case, then the suburbs and that urban sprawl, and those deep communities will definitely have better growth than what we see in the inner city if it keeps on going at the rate that we're going.
Gotcha.
As you can see here, year over year, the benchmark price has increased 7.5%, which is quite significant considering it stayed pretty flat in other areas of the market. And then we got semi-detached, which in my opinion is, second best form of home ownership. You do get into the market at a lower price than the detached homes, but you have a lot of rights as a homeowner that you don't have in a row home. And you don't often have those association fees or those condo fees attached to them like you would in a row home. So benchmark price sitting at 430 for the city of Calgary. Months of inventory sitting right at 3. So a little more supply than detached, but a lot of that inventory is coming in the city center as well, and at 222. And the reason for that too is you have a lot of developers and builders taking these old homes on big 60-foot wide lots and building lots of semi-detached homes. So basically duplexes on one lot where there was one house, now there's 2 houses, and that kind of redevelopment happens a lot in the city center, which is why you have so much more inventory there. Of course, the benchmark price is a lot higher in the inner city as well at 755. Mm-hmm. And then what's interesting too is getting into row homes. We haven't seen this type of growth in a year in the row home sector ever. So 8% gain in the benchmark price year over year. So it's sitting at 300,600 currently as a benchmark price. And your month's supply is actually lower than the semi-detached, which is very interesting to see. We don't often see that in our markets. And if we look at the southeast and the south again, we're sitting at even lower supplies because those areas right now are absolutely booming.
Gotcha. And any thoughts to why there's so much demand?
So lots of these communities that are driving the charge down the south there, they're great HOA communities. So they have lots of amenities, lots of common areas and recreation centers. that come with living in the neighborhood. So there's a small fee that you pay on an annual basis, but a lot of these communities are great for young families, as opposed to some of the older communities that don't have the same kind of amenities that these newer ones do. So it's becoming more and more popular to move to these newer communities that have those amenities and that have newer homes as well that go along with that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I appreciate that insight.
Yeah, you'll see that as well on the north side. So the north here also having some really strong statistics, just because it's very similar. All these modern communities are kind of focused around, you know, a city within a city, having everything that you need within walking distance is kind of the whole idea. Here, we'll touch a little bit on days on markets. This is a good indicator, just kind of showing the trends of what's happening, and it'll likely forecast a bit into winter here, what's going on. So days on market in January of this year, 57 for all of Calgary, pretty typical. And then the spike happens, so 45, 35, 33, 32, and then again, we're starting to round that corner. So 34, 40, 42, and into September here, because right now we're at September 28th, we have a pretty good idea of what the stats are going to be for September, and that number is sitting in the mid 40s as well. So there's a good chance that's going to start dipping into the 50s here come October, and get softer as towards the holiday season.
Right.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to discuss with your listeners there was just some opportunities that are available in Calgary and that will be available, many very similar throughout the winter. Just some possible projects that you know, your viewers would be interested to see. Yes, there's a lot of redevelopment happening, especially this year. A lot of builders and developers are buying up old lots, and whether they're actually going about it and trying to flip them, or you know, add to their real estate portfolios and rent them out, refinance and do a BRRRR. There's just a lot of these things happening, but there still is a lot of good opportunities here. So I'll just dive into a couple active listings and a couple sold, just so you can kind of see the before and after of and what is possible and what's been happening here in Calgary. So here's a bungalow that we got built in 1956 in Highwood. So it is actually an inner city community, not too far away from downtown. There's a lot of redevelopment happening in that community. So it's really important when you're looking at this to look at location, look at the community, make sure there's been some good redevelopment happening, because if you choose the wrong spot, like wrong location, wrong community, you're really putting a cap on potential value for yourself. So we look at this lot here. It's sitting on a 60 by 120 RC2 lot. So what that means is down the road, if you ever want to redevelop it into a duplex, into a secondary dwelling on the property, it just bodes really well for future value. And right now, this one's sitting at 409, which is pretty close to land value itself. But what's really interesting about this property is that it does have a kitchen in the basement already, separate entry, and the suite already done. So it's really just a matter of refurbishing it and refitting lots of items and increasing that value in the property. So I'll just show you a couple photos of what 400,000 can buy you in Calgary on this lot. So here we got living room, pretty closed off as you expect in 50s and 60s bungalow. But again, very easy to open this up into the kitchen area, put in a new kitchen, an island, bathroom reno, and reposition some of the utilities as well, right? Something like this, someone can come along, it wouldn't require loads and loads of work. Like something like this has the roof done, the windows, utilities like hot water tank and furnace have been addressed as well. So you're really just working on, taking out flooring, repainting, taking down some walls, doing some demo. It's not a huge project. You're likely going to be spending 80 to 100 grand on something like this. So already got the kitchen in the basement and 2 bedrooms down there as well. So this property turned around. I'll show you a comparable that just sold in the same area, but you're likely looking at a turnaround time of around 625 to 650 with about 80 grand to 100 grand worth of work. This one here is a little better comparable, but they haven't done loads and loads of work, some landscaping on the outside, some cleaning up on the inside, but nothing as far as like a major modern reno. of course, flooring, paint, and lighting can go a long ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, these opportunities exist everywhere. For someone who thinks there's, they missed the train, it's definitely not the case. There's lots of houses like this that can
And
be.
what price did that one sell for, Tristan?
That was 626.
Gotcha.
Yeah, same lot, same neighborhood, and I mean, to be looking at that one there, they probably spent around 100 grand of renovations
Mm-hmm.
on it.
So yeah,
Again,
it definitely appears like there's an opportunity.
yeah, no, good option for sure. This one here actually was quite lucrative. So it sold for 770. Now it's a bigger bungalow, close to 1,500 square feet. So your upper potential is higher, but of course your cost of renovation is going to be more too. So this one was bought in 2019 and for $400,000. Now, looking at the old photos, it's definitely not a shower, but I'll show you here. Very, very original.
Yeah.
Not very kept. But 400 grand, that's the price of the lot itself, right? So if you can take an opportunity like this, remodel it, then you're looking at some really, really cool value. So let's take a look at the new photos here. And these guys spent quite a bit of money on landscaping, at front entrance, flooring, windows. But I mean, they turned around and sold it for virtually double. So there's definitely some opportunity to that. But also from a rental standpoint, a home like this, if you rented the whole house out, you'd be looking to command about 4 grand for it.
Okay.
If you suited it, which would be another good option, like this one here that's on the market. So $450,000 for a 1,500 square foot bungalow, very comparable to that one we just saw. Has a garage in the back already, which the other one didn't at first. Has the roof done recently. It's on a 50 by 120 lot, so not as wide, but still a pretty good sized lot. This one here is already has a kitchen in the basement, separate entrance. You could turn around, renovate it, and sell it for in the $750,000 to $800,000 range. So you can do that, or you can decide to rent it out as well. And the basements, if it's renovated in this community, are going for around $1,500 for a 2-bedroom, and main floors renovated for around $2,200 to $2,400. So potential revenue on that property of close to 4 grand, with an investment of close to 600 grand. So it's not a bad little project there for somebody.
Yeah, it's nice to have multiple exit strategies, right? You could fix it up, plan to flip it, don't get the price you want, potentially be able to pivot and switch back to having it as a rental and wait until you're able to command the price that you were looking for.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm telling a lot of my clients as well. So make sure you can actually generate some revenue from the property as a rental, just in case you need to leave the property or to cover the costs, and then hope for that long-term growth. And I don't think it's really a hope. I think that it is more of an expectation here in Calgary that these properties will eventually start rising in value as the migration starts going up and as our economy starts turning around, because for me, it's inevitable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really appreciate you sharing what's going on in the Calgary market. I always love being able to dive into the numbers as well as actually see some on-market deals that actually have some upside, because again, I don't think that it's that easy these days in Ontario to find deals on the MLS that also have, like the ARV property has recently sold as a comp nearby. It's wonderful to be able to actually still spot those opportunities on the Calgary MLS.
Absolutely. Yeah. So working with quite a few investor clients right now who are looking for the same things, some from out east where close to you guys are, and then a few from Vancouver as well, just looking for some projects and looking to, again, gain some of that wealth and get some more independence and freedom. And it's important to have someone who just knows the area. And that's why, it's important to work with a realtor who is from those communities and who understands. But especially when you're not from Calgary, if you're from, Vancouver, Ontario, right? But there's definitely you haven't missed the bus, you haven't missed the train. There's lots of opportunities here to be had for someone who's, willing to take that risk and take that leap of faith, right?
Yeah, really appreciate you highlighting this for us, Tristan. And I guess before we wrap up, for anyone that is maybe a out of province investor, I'm guessing you've got an entire Rolodex that they can tap into if they're working with you in regards to contractors or if they're looking for financing, things of that nature.
Absolutely. We have partners in all trades. So general contractors down to sub trades if you want to manage a project yourself. But we can definitely point you in the right direction in that regard. And one thing to keep in mind too is that a lot of these projects and possible developments don't come to market. They're often approached by developers separately from, whatever means of marketing or door knocking. But it's important to have someone who's working for you that's hungry and willing to go out there and find those projects, because the best deals happen off market.
100% agree. And so if you guys want to reach out to Tristan, if you want to get in the loop on what's going on in Calgary, links to all his contact information are in the video description down below. Really do encourage you guys to reach out. It's so critical that you've got someone on your power team that actually works with real life investors, right? There's a lot of realtors out there these days, but you want to make sure that you're working with someone that actually works with investing clients if you're an investor yourself. So it's absolutely critical. Appreciate you sharing your insights and expertise, and definitely looking forward to chatting next month and seeing what's going on in Calgary.
Absolutely. Good chat with you, Matt. Thanks for having me.